This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, well, it's 9 a.m. and the meeting's order. Committee members include members of council. However, we sit at this table as the Committee of Adjustment, not as members of council. Our jurisdiction lies solely with matters of consent and minor variance applications, and the secretary of this committee is Alicia Milne. This is a hearing to consider applications for minor variances and consents within the Township of Southgate and is held under provisions of the Planning Act 1990. The hearing will be in accordance with the Provincial Planning Act, the Municipal Act, and the Township of Southgate official plan. Back here. Okay, we have a motion. Be it resolved that the committee appoint Holly Malnick as Secretary Treasurer for Committee of Adjustment effective January 1st, 2022. Do I have a mover for that? Martin and Brian. Just so everyone knows, I'm on the iPad and don't have full view of everyone, so please just speak up if you do want to put it in for anything. Barbara? Nope, we don't have you yet.
I think you might be muted, Councillor Dobreen.
Thank you.
There you are.
Thank you. I'm also calling in by phone. I unmuted one, but not the other. Chair Woodbury, that resolution, is that on the agenda?
I pulled up the agenda from, because I'm in my truck this morning. I pulled up the agenda from the website and it's there.
Yeah, it's on the agenda.
Okay, because I'm in eScribe and it's not. So I'm just going to go back out and I'll go in through the website and see if I can, because I want to make sure that I have the most up-to-date agenda.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any discussion on this motion? All right. Is anyone opposed? Then that is carried, and welcome, Holly. Be good to have you on board. Now I have a motion for confirmation of the agenda. Mover and seconder, please. Brian and Michael. Any discussion on that? Okay. Is anyone opposed? And that is carried. Let's see. Declaration of pecuniary interest. You can declare now or at any time through the meeting and put the paperwork into Lindsay for now and Holly come January. Adoption of the minutes. These are the minutes from September 22nd. Need a mover and seconder. Okay, Martin and Barbara. Any discussion on those minutes?
Nope.
Hearing none. Anyone opposed? Then that agreed. So now we're on to item 7. I'll ask anyone speaking about an application to state their full name and address for the record. Please keep all remarks relevant to the consent or minor variance application before us, as the Committee of Adjustment has no jurisdiction on any other matters. Any materials submitted to the committee for viewing will remain the property of the Committee of Adjustment and will be available for public viewing in the application file and may be placed online. Please direct all remarks and questions to me as the chair, and this will enable us to conduct the meeting in a organized manner. So first up, we have 7.1, which is 7-21 NB machining, and let me pull this up. There we go. So this is the purpose of this is to sever the 2 original township lots, being lot 33 and 34, which inadvertently merged. So back to their original lot dimensions. Lot 33 will be 40.61 hectares and have a 540.5 meter of frontage on Southgate Road 14. And lot 34 will have approximately 40.61 hectares with 269.78 meters Road 14. The effect will be to create two farm parcels of approximately 40 hectares in size each, with frontage on Road 14. Just need the, I just have to look up the address here. Oh, it's concession 11, lot 33 and 34, geographic township of Croton. Can I please have clarification the sign was posted?
Yes, the sign was posted and proper notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act.
Okay, thanks, Alicia. If the applicant is an attendant, and if so, would like to come forward to present their case. Okay, hearing none. I'll ask the planner, Clint Stredwick, to review all comments received and present his staff report.
Thank you, Chair Woodbury. I'll start out with the comments received. So we received comments from Bell Canada, who have no concerns. We received comments from Enbridge, indicating they have service lines in the area, and if there's a need to move those service lines, it'll be at the owner's expense. Public Works Department indicates a 3-meter road widening will be required, and entrance permits for development will also be required. They also note that Side Road 21 is a no winter maintenance road, so there will be no access from that side road. Highway 1 has no concerns, or Hydro 1, pardon me. County of Grey indicate that prior to the decision of on this application, the county would recommend that the Conservation Authority provide comments on the subject application to determine the precise boundaries of the hazard lands, to comment on whether access over the existing stream would be feasible on the proposed retain lot, as well as any potential impact to the mapped significant woodlands. Staff would also recommend MDS be achieved for both the retained and severed lots, and that D6 guidelines be considered in relation to the on-farm diversified use that is not part of this application, but is shown on their diagram as an overall plan for the future. So you will be likely seeing this application again. The Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority recommends deferral at this time. The SVCA was contacted in November of 2020 by the agent, Solomon Martin, and he was verbally advised that the EIS and flood reports are required to support the proposal. And the EIS and flood report have not been submitted for review as of yet. So those reports are missing. So at this time, they're recommending deferral, and then therefore the county is also recommending deferral. I wonder if Alicia could just bring up the drawing for the application so that people can get an idea of what's actually being proposed. So this is two lots have merged, and we actually asked the lawyers for the applicant to demonstrate that, and they provided proof that they had in fact merged. You can see by the drawing, the red and the blue, that it's not an exact split between the original Crown Survey lots. So a survey will be required because it's not exactly the same. You can see in the north end, they're taking a little chunk out of the top to retain that bit of forest land with the easterly lot. And down at the south end, they're taking a little chunk out of that portion to add to the westerly lot, which is basically farm field. So it's not exact, and that's why one has significantly more frontage than the other. You'll see on the easterly lot that's proposed, they are proposing to cross that creek or stream there, and that's at this point we don't know if the Conservation Authority is going to allow them to do that, or if there's sufficient access for that lot. So that's one of the reasons why I'm recommending deferral of the application, is because I can't be certain that the retained lot is going to be developable to us to do what they want it to do, based on the comments and information we have as of yet. The EIS has also not been submitted as of yet. It was in process, and from what I understand, they just didn't get her done in time, but it is in process. So I think it best and prudent just to wait until we receive those documents and have the SPCA have a chance to review them, and then we can bring this back in the new year with all the information, basically. And that's all my comments. There were no comments, by the way, by any members of the public that I have received, just so you're aware.
Okay, great. Thank you. Does any members of the committee have any questions? Okay, Brian, then Martin.
Thank you, John. Clinton, the both clusters of buildings, I'll call it, both are being proposed because there's nothing there currently, correct?
That's correct.
Right. So I guess my question then is, or my real question is, why are we concerned about whether it's developable or not? The application is to sever the one side from the other. And in spite of the little dips and dives of the line to split the two lots to retain the 40 hectares on either side, why is it a concern of this application whether it's developable or not? Because that will be in the next application regarding zoning, I would think, right?
No, not entirely. The basic premise for lot creation is that you cannot create a lot that is either landlocked or is undevelopable. So basically, you sever off all the junky land and leave it so that it's undevelopable, that nobody wants. So in this case, we're not 100% sure about the access that they're proposing for what they want to do. Because here's the thing, if they can't get the access the way they want and develop it, maybe they don't want to do this form of severance, and then they have to come back again. So I think it's best if they just get it cleared up, and then it's not an issue.
Well, and I can appreciate your concern for, their proposal, but my question remains, if the decision in front of us is to sever the properties, I'm not convinced that it's our concern whether it's developable or not, but I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Clinton.
Okay, Martin.
Yeah, thank you, John. Yeah, Clinton, that was looking at all the jogs. That was my opinion too. They obviously want to get the severance so they can obviously have more buildings for family members, what have you. I think deferring it would be a good idea, because there's going to be a shop if that is allowed on that property, with the bridge going over the creek or the drainage ditch or whatever. You said they had they're having a flood study, EIS. With 3 trucks a day going to that shop, are they going to have an engineered bridge, or is that something they have to look at after? because there's going to be a lot of trucks going up and down that road, yard driveway. That's one thing that should be looked at too, I think, if and when it does get developed, as Brian says. So do you have any comments about that, or?
Well, and that's one of the things the Conservation Authority has to be satisfied with first.
Yeah.
In my opinion, we can't just create a lot that's not developable. That goes against official plan policy and county policy, even for that matter. It amounts to bad planning. If you've created a good lot and a bad lot, what ends up happening with the bad lot is nobody wants to pay taxes on it, and then we end up with it.
Yep.
Okay. We don't want that either.
Well, as you say, I'm pretty sure the Conservation Authority has their own engineers, but that is a major consideration when there's a shop going to be on the development. So anyway, thanks, Clinton.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, not hearing any at this time. Are there any others in attendance that would like to speak in support of this application? Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Okay, any further questions from the committee members?
Barbara?
Okay, Barbara, go ahead.
Not sure if you can see our hands.
No.
Through you to Clinton, just to clarify, and I would move that we defer as recommended by planning. Clinton, just to summarize, that it's good planning practices not to create a lot that is either landlocked or undevelopable, according to Southgate and county official plans. Is that also a recommended planning practice through the provincial policy statement? I mean, from a good planning, from good land use planning perspective.
To be honest, I would have to look to see if there's actual specific wording in the provincial policy. But again, it generally has motherhood statements that it should be good planning. And in my mind, good planning means that you have two at least decent lots as opposed to a throwaway lot. And that's not what you want. So yeah, I would have to check the PPS, but I'm sure there's some motherhood statements in there to that effect.
Well, I'm sure that that's how we developed our official plan with that in mind to ensure that we are practicing good land use planning. I would, Mr. Chair, I would move that we defer this file.
Okay. Well, let's see if there's any other comments
Chair
from. Yep. Go ahead.
I believe the agent for the file might be on the line. I did see someone turn on their microphone, so he may have additional information to add.
Okay, this is for NB Machining Incorporated. So if the applicant is on the phone or on line, could you identify yourself, and if you have anything to add, would be greatly appreciated.
Yes, it's Solomon Martin. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can, and welcome.
Oh, hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Regarding that EIS and that engineering for the bridge, Jones Consulting Group is doing that, and they actually sent an email last week that it's completed, but Brad Baker is doing the EIS, and he didn't quite have the report complete for Saucon Valley in time for this, so he said we'll get it this week yet.
Okay, thank you. Okay, are there any other comments from council or committee? Brian.
Just to take one more stab at it, I can appreciate, Clinton, you don't want to create an undevelopable lot. But that said, looking at the aerial photograph, I'm thinking that on the where the cluster of building is proposed, that looks like a worked piece of land. And to the east of it, it would look like currently at least either a hay crop or a grain crop, depending on when the picture was taken. And there's a little sliver of land at the front that's developable. So I'm thinking there must be a crossing of some description, you know, whether it's a culvert or whether it's just through the water for farm machinery. I don't think the lot is a throwaway lot as it's being proposed, because it's obviously being used. Well, okay, I'm not going to argue with the planner anymore, but I still will maintain that it's not particularly our concern whether it's developable or not, because it is developable. Whether it's used for agriculture or whether it's used for these buildings, it is a developed lot in terms of agriculture. So I see Clinton is just busting there to have a go at me. So I'm not going to respond any further, but I'd be interested to hear what Clinton has to say.
Oh, come on, Brian, you might. Okay, Clint, let's hear it.
Okay, so just there is a distinction between development and agriculture, believe it or not. Agriculture is allowed in hazard lands and in EP lands. And by agriculture, I mean planting of crops, pasture lands, tapping trees, whatever form of agriculture you're doing. It's the buildings that we're talking about. So whether the buildings are in floodplains, we haven't received the floodplain analysis yet, which is part of what they need, right? So that's what we mean about development. It's, can you put a building on it? So if you're going to separate that lot and you can't put any buildings on it, that's a bit of a problem, because all it can ever be used for is agriculture, in which case it's probably better suited to stick with the other farm, as opposed to just having a lot that's not developable, because that lot then, from a planning perspective, doesn't have a higher use beyond planting of crops. There's no, you can't put a barn on it, you can't put a storage shed on it. Those are the things we're looking at. Because someone who comes in, the first thing they would say is, I want to build a house on it, or I want to put a shed or a barn on there for my tools and equipment to continue to crop it. And if you can't do that because it's in the floodplain, then we've sort of created a bit of a mess, in my opinion. So I stand by my opinion, and I guess Brian still feels that way. I guess we'll agree to disagree.
That sounds like what it is. Okay, does anyone else have any questions or comments?
Jason here, John.
Go ahead, Jason.
Tend to agree with Brian. And I've actually been on that farm before, and there is a driveway at each side of the creek, so they already have access there. And not going against Clint and the planning, but with climate change and all that, what's so bad about having a lot if they can develop it? I just kind of, I understand you're following the rules and the mandate, Clint, but it's just kind of funny when we say, oh, it's just worthless just being farmland. Just my opinion, but I agree with Brian. And you know, if he's got the stuff and if the engineers have got the stuff, hopefully we can move this along quick. I hope it doesn't take another 3 or 4 months. I would rather get it done and get it going, but if we have to defer, we do, but let's get it back as quick as we can.
Yep, good point, Jason. Anyone else have any comments?
It's Solomon Martin here again.
Yes, go ahead.
We actually do have a plan too on the east side of the creek is where the access is right now, and we could plan two would be to put a lane in along the creek there on the east side, and where the building site is for that lot is on high ground and not in hazard land either. So
okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, we have the motion moved by Barb that be it resolved committee received the staff report PL 2021-099 for information, and that the application be deferred until the County of Grey and Conservation Authority comments have been addressed. Do I have a seconder for that? Martin?
I'll second it, John.
Okay. Any other comments on this? Okay. Is anyone opposed to this motion? Brian's opposed to it. Anyone else? Okay.
Yes, I am, John. Jason, sorry, I am too.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, Jason. Okay. So we have 2 opposed and 5 in favor. So the deferral is passed, and like Jason said, I'd like to, if we can, see this back as soon as we can. So we'll go on from there.
Chair Woodbury?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do we have to take a roll call vote as we do, as council does when there are opposed votes? I know that it's carried, but I just not sure of process in the Committee of Adjustment.
Well, in council, we don't have to either. We've chosen to. And and the same with doing the bylaws. It was our choice to do all bylaws by recorded vote. And that's not mandatory. So no, it's not mandatory here either.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll move on to the next file, 7.2, which is B11-21. That's Harper Homes. It's concession 18, South Part Lot 16, Geographic Township of Egremont. And it's pulling up the purpose. It's further described as 2241 Southgate Road 22. The purpose is to sever a portion of the subject lands to create a new residential lot. The retained lot, which already has a house, will remain as is. The proposed severed and retained lots will have 40 meters of frontage and an area of 1,618 meters squared. The lots will have frontage on Southgate Road 22. The effect will be to create one new residential lot with 40 meters of frontage and an area of 1,618 meters squared on Southgate Road 22 in the village of Drumore. Could I have confirmation that the sign was posted, please?
Yes, I can confirm that the sign was posted and proper notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act.
Okay, thank you. If the applicant is present, if you could identify yourself and if there's anything you'd like to say.
Hi there, I'm Matt from Harper Homes. I'll probably be representing the company for the call. I don't have anything I guess say or questions just yet, so I'll just kind of sit idly by.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for being here. Clint, if you'd like to review comments received and present your staff report.
Thank you. I'll read out the comments first. While I'm reading them out, maybe Alicia can just bring up the severance drawing just so that it's there for when I'm speaking. So Bell Canada has no concerns. Enbridge Gas has their standard statement of their service lines in the area, and if they're needed to be relocated, it'll be at the owner's expense. The Public Works indicate that the lots are on a rural asphalt road. A lot entrance permit will be required for the severed lot, and a 3-meter road winding would be required. The property is located in the municipal Drumore Municipal Drainage Works area. The SVCA have not provided comments as of the date of writing this report. Did we get any comments there, Alicia?
Let me just double check, sorry. I believe they did comment.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a report there from them, Clint.
Okay, just let me grab that then. Consent. Okay. Oh, there we go. It's the last one. Okay, so the SVCA staff find the application acceptable. The subject property does not contain any natural hazard features or other environmental features of interest to the SVCA, or as per our memorandum of agreement with the Township of Southgate. As such, it is the opinion of SVCA staff that the application is consistent with the natural hazard, natural heritage policies of the PPS and Township Official Plan. Okay. The Hydro One have no concerns. County of Grey indicate that the subject lands are within a secondary settlement area of Drumore. It states it shall be demonstrated that the lands can be adequately and safely serviced by private services, well and septic, in accordance with building code requirements. Appendix B of the county OP identifies a stream on the subject property on the east side. Comments from the SVCA should be obtained with respect to the stream. I believe that's the drainage works that the public works were mentioning, and as we've heard from the SVCA, there's nothing of significance there that's of concern to them. So there's no issue from that perspective. There's no comments that I've received yet from the public. So here's the proposed consent sketch here. So the entrance would be along the south property line there, and the existing one is the westerly lot with an existing house and driveway and well and a septic, and they're just proposing to mirror that on the right side of the lot. Now, in doing that, they're creating a lot that's slightly smaller than what the zoning of the R5 permits in terms of total area. The lot frontage is fine, it's just the lot area is a little bit small. I believe about 350 meters or so too small. And therefore, I am recommending that it go through the zoning process to recognize that, to implement the consent. But if you look at all of the other lots in Drumore on that side of the street, with the exception of the big one behind, they're all of the same size as these two would be when they're severed. So it's not going to look out of place from that perspective. So it'll keep that character, I guess, of Drumore in terms of the lot sizing, etc. And yeah, so I've reviewed the township policy and the PPS, and it supports this kind of development in a settlement area. There is a maximum amount of development that can happen within Drumore. It allows for a density of 1 lot per acre. So the entire settlement area of Drumore is actually 51 acres. So there's currently 27 lots there. So this would add an extra one, so there'd still be 23 lots left after that. So there's ample from a perspective of lot density. And it will, once we go through the zoning process, it'll meet the zoning standards, and therefore I've recommended it be approved, subject to the 3-meter road widening as per the public works comments. The zoning amendments be obtained to recognize the reduced lot area, that a survey is provided, and that A general grading and drainage plan is provided to the satisfaction of Public Works and the building department. It doesn't have to be necessarily an engineered grading plan, but it does need to be a detailed drainage plan for them. And that if there's any outstanding fees or charges that are associated with the application, that they be paid prior to registration. So those are my comments.
Okay, thank you, Clint. Any comments or questions from the committee members?
I have one here, John.
Okay, Martin and Brian.
Yeah, thank you, John. Through the chair, to the applicant himself, I apologize, I didn't catch your first name. But I was just wondering, what size of footprint of the house is it that you're building? Just curious that way.
Go ahead, Matt.
We wouldn't actually be building on the property ourselves. It's just the building that's there is just mimicking the same size of the building that's currently on the lot to the left-hand side.
Okay. Okay. So a follow-up then to Clinton through the chair. You said that lot is a bit smaller. Will that affect the size of any build there?
Go ahead.
Footprint?
I said the lots will be of similar size to the other lots on that side of the street. So the size of the lot and the zoning will dictate the size of the actual house based on setbacks and lot coverage and that sort of thing.
Okay, I kind of thought that, but thank you, Clinton. Thanks.
Okay, Brian.
Thank you, John. Two things, Clint. First of all, it's interesting that the Conservation Authority has no interest in the drain there, or the stream, as some have called it. It is, in fact, part of the drain. But it's interesting they have no interest in it regarding that, in light of the grief that it has caused another lot owner in the general area there. Saugeen Valley seemed to have lots of interest in it on the other side of the road. But that be it as it may. I'm not so certain that we need to. Do we really have to drive them through the zoning thing? Because, I mean, the lot fabric is there. It's a historical lot fabric size. I mean, clearly that it is matching all the other lots along there. Why would we drive them through the zoning process? It seems like a needless step to me, a needless expense for the proponents.
Because as of now, they can't create the lot because it goes against policy. So you can't create a lot that doesn't meet the zoning. So the zoning is currently R5, and the R5 has a minimum lot size. And that's around 2,000 meters squared, I believe. So if you're going to go and try and create a lot that's less than 2,000 meters squared, you'd no longer comply with the zoning bylaw, and therefore you couldn't get. So that's why we have to do that, I'm afraid. It sucks, I know, but.
You said that, I didn't, but I share your sentiment. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Any other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none at this point.
Sorry,
oh, go ahead.
So I have a quick question for Mr. Sedgwick. So for the current rezoning, we would have to go through the rezoning process to have it rezoned as which zoning, like an R2?
It would be an R5 exception, and the exception would be for the lot area. And that would be for the severed and the retained lots.
Okay, and would they be separate applications with costs incurred separately?
Nope, just one application that deals with all of them, because the lots technically aren't created until all of the conditions are met in the zoning, and one of them, or in the consent, and one of them is zoning. So it's just the zoning for the whole lot.
Mm-hmm. And how long does that process typically take to complete?
Well, if you can get it in, we could probably have it to a public meeting in probably February. And then it could be the next council meeting after that, if we could, depending on how quick it was in.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay.
Barbara?
Okay, Barbara, go ahead.
Through you to Clinton, if there were a requirement to relocate the municipal drain, that would take a separate avenue and require further commenting, correct? Because a municipal drain requires its own commenting period. I'm not sure what member Milne was referring to, the lot across the road where the Conservation Authority gave them grief, because I have the letter here. They permitted it. It was entirely to do with the relocation of the municipal drain. It had nothing to do with the actual build on the lot, and the fact that the owner wasn't aware that there was a municipal drain on the lot. At least this owner is aware that the municipal drain exists. So what is the process should there be, they have to address the drainage, obviously, on the new lot. What would be the process if the municipal drain needs to be relocated in order to come up with a building envelope?
Municipal Drainage Act is not particularly my area of expertise. I would generally defer to either Jim or Lindsay in that respect. I would say that there's, based on the size and what they want to do, there should not be an issue with the drainage and having to relocate the drain on the lot. You should still be able to build on the lot, and therefore not creating an undevelopable lot.
Right.
But I can't honestly say what the process is for moving a municipal drain, because that's not in my sphere.
Right. Well, I can appreciate that the owner across the road had to go through great lengths to find a spot to put the house by relocating the drain, but I have no objection to your recommendation. I'm curious as to the process. So thank you very much.
Okay. If there are any members of the public, oh, Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, just kind of wondering, I know it's November, why it would take February before we could have this back in front of us. Why is it taking so long if he gets the paperwork in right away? Just to speed up the process for him.
Well, it's for a zoning. So if he got the zoning in, say, the beginning of next week, we would have we have to be able to review it. Technically we're allowed 30 days to review it. I wouldn't take that long necessarily for this one to review it. So you're looking at a minimum of January before you could get to a public meeting to allow the full 20 days. And if you're out because of the Christmas holidays, you're looking at the beginning of February, the first council meeting in February before you could bring it to council, just because of the Planning Act 20 days requirement. So that's why it's the Planning Act timelines.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak against this application? Okay, and I'll ask if the committee members if they have any more questions or comments.
Jason here, John.
Sure, go ahead, Jason.
Just wondering if we go ahead with this and sever the parcel, is it residential only, or they say they're not planning on building on the other one? Could somebody come along and want to put a, I don't know, a store or something, or is it residential only? Maybe I missed that.
Yes, it would be a residential 5 exception. So it would be the uses of the R5 residential zone. So a store isn't a permitted use in that zone.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
And sorry, just a quick question.
Sure.
Just to go through the zoning is just because it's that 350 meters squared smaller than the regular parcel of an R5?
Yes.
Yes,
If
so
we
the
were-
minimum lot size
Yep.
is 2,000 square meters for the R5 zone. So the lot size you currently have, when you divide it in half, neither the severed or retained are still going to maintain that lot size, and therefore you need to rezone it to recognize that. The same way, if we do it in the countryside and we do them, we have to recognize often reduced lot frontages.
Okay. So are there any other questions or comments from the committee?
Sure, you, Barbara?
Yeah, Barb.
You did mention that it is in keeping with the other lots within the settlement area of Drumore. It's not out of character, and it actually appears to be similar or slightly larger than some of the lots that are currently in Drumore. Why is it that this is, or would they have been treated the same and had, when they did the plan of, I'm going to say this must have been a plan of subdivision in the day, and because you say that there's up to 51 lots, I'm not sure where they would be put, but.
Okay, so planning happens over time. So these lots were created before your initial zoning standard came into play. And so when you brought your new zoning bylaw in 2001, when amalgamation happened and whatnot, these were all given an R5 and deemed to be in conformity with the official or with the zoning bylaw. So obviously they don't meet all of the provisions of the R5 zone if some of them are smaller, but that's the way they're zoned nonetheless. It's a historical kind of development pattern. The way this is now, that zoning is in place now. And so now in order to create further lots, you need to respect that zone. So if any of them were there now, like that were this size, and they wanted to sever, they would have to go through this same process too. They're enjoying a historical situation right now where they were allowed to have smaller lots in the past, and the zoning just reflects that now. So that's why this one has to go through that, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions or comments from the committee? Okay, not hearing any. I'll accept a motion to grant, refuse, or defer the motion. And the motion is that the Committee of Adjustment receives staff report PL 2021-100 for information. Severance be approved with the following: a 3-meter road widening provided to the township. Zoning bylaw amendment be obtained to recognize the reduced lot area. Survey be provided, and that grading and drainage plan be provided to address stormwater management to the satisfaction of the Township Public Works Department and Chief Building Official, and that all outstanding taxes, fees, and charges be paid, if any. So, and somebody would like to move a motion? Jim?
I'll second it, John.
Okay, and that's a motion to grant?
Yes.
Okay, so, and any more discussion on the motion to grant? Hearing none, is anyone opposed? And that is, so thank you, Matt, for being here for that. And we'll move on to the next file, which is B12-21. Ian and Preseda Martin, concession for SWTSR lot 216 to 219, geographic township of Proton. The purpose is, it's also 712457 Southgate Road 71. The purpose is to sever the large 80-hectare farm parcel into two 40-hectare farms. The severed and retained lots will have 400 meters of frontage on Southgate Road 71 and an area of approximately 40 hectares. The effect would be to create two farm parcels of approximately 40 hectares in size each, with a 400 meters of frontage on South Road 71. Could I have confirmation that the sign was posted, please?
Yes, I can confirm that the sign was posted and proper notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act.
Great, thank you. If the applicant is in attendance, if you could identify yourself and if you'd like to say at this point. Okay, not hearing any. Clint, could you do the comments and your report, please?
Thank you, Chair Woodbury. Again, I'll ask Alicia just to bring up the consent sketch while I'm reading through the comments here. So Bell Canada has no concerns. Enbridge Gas has their standard comment of gas lines in the area and having to relocate them at the owner's expense if necessary. Public Works Department indicated a 3-meter road widening is required, and entrance permits for the retained or severed lot, will be required. The SVCA indicate that the proposed consent application is generally acceptable to the SVCA staff, provided the recommendations and mitigation measures found in the environmental impact study prepared by Burke's Natural Heritage Consultants and the flood assessment prepared by Jones Consulting Planners are followed. So Hydro One has no comments. The County of Grey recommend that a decision be deferred until such time that the Conservation Authority is able to provide comments with respect to the hazard lands features on the subject property and the prepared EIS. The county seeks confirmation on whether access to the property could be achieved without detrimental implications for the surrounding natural heritage features, including a viable building envelope and access route. Viable building envelope is the same as developable lot. A floodplain analysis be undertaken to understand that any proposed development throughout the hazard lands feature would be resilient to potential flooding. When identifying the building envelope, it should be further ensured that sufficient opportunity is available for the provision of services for any new use on the lands, and that MDS can be achieved. Comments have been received from members of the public as well. John and Diane Belenky, pardon me if I pronounce that wrong. They have a few concerns related to the proposal from a conservation standpoint. The proposed lane and its proximity to the wetland and if this area is protected against any development, as it is home to a variety of species, the potential impact to their well water supply with runoff from the field as it is a wetland at present, and there's farming proposed at the back, and the clearing of the trees on the lot for farming and the proximity to the wetland and concern for any resident species there, and the impact to the current flow of water running off during heavy rain and thaw with any adjustments to the terrain. So those are the comments I've received. You can see on your screen there, the proposed severance there is the north part, and the access that they're proposing for that area goes right through the wetland. There is no frontage that doesn't go through the wetland. And it's not a little ways, it's like 300 meters or more through this wetland area. So obviously with flooding concerns and whatnot, we had to be sure that they can access it, that emergency services can access that area, and that it's generally able to be developed on. So they provided an EIS and a floodplain analysis by Jones Consulting, and the Conservation Authority has reviewed that, and there's recommendations put in that. And so in my conditions for approval, I'm recommending that a development agreement is entered into to ensure that those comments are followed through, like the recommendations from the EIS, pardon me, and the flood assessment are followed and implemented. I think that's the best way in order to make sure that those are done. It doesn't require rezoning because it is large enough and it does have a large enough frontage. It's still going to be 40 hectares in size. So if they can get this agreement in place, then it should be fine for development from my perspective. I've reviewed all of the official plan and township policy, and it meets those policies, so that's why I'm recommending it be approved. And that's it.
Okay, thanks, Clint. Committee members, any questions or comments? Brian?
Thank you, John. Clinton, the development agreement would be with who? Us or Conservation Authority?
It would likely be through with us to ensure that those things are done in a way, because that when the next thing that's going to happen is they would come for a building permit, right? And so the building department will look at that agreement and say, have you done all of these things? And does it, because there's even timing of when you can apply and build as part of those recommendations. So if they look at that agreement and you're not in those timeframes, then they can't issue the permit, or they're able to not issue the permit as opposed to being to.
So it kind of puts us in a position to enforce the recommendations from the Conservation Authority, correct?
To a certain extent, there are also recommendations from the county as well.
I was meaning specifically the recommendations within the EIS and the flood analysis. I mean, those are the conditions.
Those are the consultants for the applicant who are actually proposing that. So yes, we would be enforcing their studies.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any other comments, questions from the committee?
Martin here, John.
Go ahead, Martin.
Yeah, again, I'm just looking at, this is a really, really long laneway going through wetland. And if it is going to be developed and they're splitting it up to put another family dwelling there, there will be another shop. So I just hope, you know, that's going to have to be one big laneway to support trucks again, which is fine. But, you know, that length of the laneway, how, if the township is liable for anything that happens on that laneway because we said okay to having it there, like removal of the snow. It doesn't look like it's heavily treed, but this could be start of something that's because of fire and getting in there, if anything goes wrong, you know, I know it's kind of digressing, but you know, this could be the start of something. Well, it's two already on the docket. So anyway, that was just a comment. So thanks, Clint, John.
Yep, go ahead, Clint.
I appreciate the concern, and that's why they have things like the EIS and the flood plain assessment, is to basically figure out how to get access to that area with minimal impact, so that it can be maintained on a year-round basis, so that if there is a flood event, we can get services to that residents. That's the whole point of those studies, is to get to that point, to reduce any risk to the township.
Yeah. Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from the committee?
Barbara?
Go ahead, Barbara.
So through you, Clinton, just to reiterate, this is the SVCA commented based on the application to sever. An EIS study's been conducted. They're making recommendations, provided that the recommendations in EIS are followed. But I would just like to remind the committee and/or the applicant that should development be proposed, they need to obtain those necessary permits from the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. The SVCA's commenting doesn't end here. They've included in their letter that that permits would be required for any development, including that laneway, to satisfy those requirements. To Councillor Shipston's point, Member Shipston's point, you know, it is going through a wetland, and your point, Clinton, that all of those EIS studies are to prevent flooding, erosion, to keep safe access, and all of that. That's my understanding.
Okay. Clint, did you want to comment? No? Okay. Any other committee members have any questions or comments? Okay, we'll move along then. Is there anyone in attendance that would like to speak in support of this? Is there anyone in attendance that would like to speak in opposition? Okay, so we're back to committee members. Any other questions or comments? Okay, not hearing any. We're to the grant, refuse, or defer stage. I'll read the motion that the Committee of Adjustment receive staff report PL 2021-101 for information, and that severance be approved with the following conditions. The survey provided, the development agreement is entered into to ensure the implementation of the Conservation Authority, EIS, and flood recommendations are implemented, and that all outstanding fees, charges, and taxes are paid. So I'll entertain a motion to grant, refer, or grant, refuse, or defer. Michael? The grant? Okay. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second it, John.
Okay. Any discussion on it to grant this motion? Okay, hearing none. Is anyone opposed? That is carried. Next is 7.4. It's A8-21, Gerald and Brenda Martin. It's concession 7, part lot 13 RP, 17 R3410, part 1, geographic township of Egremont. And okay, and it's not loading for the rest of this. Oh, here it is. The purpose of this variance is to permit an attached garage to be located to the side lot line. The proposal requires relief from section 6.1E of the bylaw, which requires a principal structure to be located 15 meters from the side lot line. Okay, so can I have confirmation that the sign was posted, please?
Yes, Chair Woodbury, the sign was posted and proper notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act.
Okay, thank you. Clint, if you'd like to, oh, sorry, I'll ask if the applicant's in attendance and if they'd like to present anything. Okay, not hearing any. Clint, I'll get you to review comments and your report, please.
Thank you, Chair Woodbury. The comments on the file, the Public Works Department indicates that it's a gravel rural road standard and that a road widening is not required. The County of Grey indicate that the proposed garage addition appears to be located outside of the mapped hazard lands, but may be within the adjacent lands of a stream and significant woodlands, and therefore it's recommended that further comments are received from the Conservation Authority. And the Conservation Authority, in their comments, indicate that the variance application is acceptable to the SVCA staff. So this is a variance, and so therefore it's required to go through the 4 tests of the Planning Act. The application, as Chair Woodbury stated, is to build or construct an attached garage. In doing so, it makes the principal structure closer to the front lot, or sorry, side lot line than is permitted by the bylaw. So they want to construct 9 meters from the side lot line as opposed to the required 15 meters. So it's a reduction of 6 meters. So in reviewing the 4 tests, the first one is the variance must be minor in nature. And I would state in a rural area, when you're going from 15 meters to a 9 meter side yard, generally that is pretty minor in nature. It's also the scale of development isn't that large. We're talking about a garage addition to a house. We're not talking about building a giant barn or anything like that. So in my opinion, this is minor, and therefore it would meet that test. The second test is it must be desirable for the appropriate development or use of the land, building, or structure. So this is a agricultural / rural lot. It's just over 5 acres in size, I believe. So it's technically an agricultural lot because it's over 5 acres in size, but in reality, the use is a residential use, and adding a garage to a residential use is most definitely appropriate. And therefore it would meet that test. The third test is it maintains the intent and purpose of the official plan. So the subject lands are designated as primary agricultural area within the township official plan, which permits the construction of attached garages such as this. The official plan generally requires that drainage be addressed so that it's not directed towards the neighboring property. In my opinion, the 9 meters is sufficient to ensure that the drainage can be handled on the property, whether it's through a swale system or a ditching system or what have you. And therefore, it's my opinion that would meet the general intent of the OP. And the last one, test is that it meets the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. So the setback, it's a 15-meter side yard setback is the requirement in the zoning bylaw. And so the intent of the side yard setback is to prevent things like any shadowing from large and massing from large buildings on neighboring properties, whether they be houses or whether they be crops. Given the size of the garage that's proposed and the forested area that's immediately adjacent to the side lot line, shadowing on the neighboring agricultural lands is not a concern, in my opinion. And therefore, in this case, the building setback 9 meters from the property line, it still meets that intent of the bylaw of not creating a large structure right on the property line or adjacent to the property line. So I believe that it meets that test, and therefore I'm recommending that the application be approved, subject to any comments at the public meeting, of course.
Thank you. Great. Thank you, Clint. Any comments or questions from the committee?
Barbara.
Okay, Barbara.
Through you, Clinton. So the drawings that have been provided indicate that it already has an attached garage, but they're proposing an attached garage and residential. Is it the intent that it's going to be a garage, or is it going to be a new secondary dwelling? And if that is the case, where it would be a secondary suite attached, which is permitted, do they have to undergo any other approvals? Because right now your purpose is that it's going to be an attached garage, but the drawing clearly shows that it's going to be additional residential.
Yes, so in my review of the drawings, the residential appeared to be as an add-on to the existing home. However, if that's not the case, it still doesn't affect the variance in terms of how far we're dealing with from the side lot line. That will be a case at the building permit stage where you would have to assess things like the septic system and how much water you can get from the well to service that second unit if need be. So that's purely a building code thing as opposed to a variance for this committee to look at.
Wonderful. So an additional secondary dwelling does not affect the variance aspect of what we're dealing with today.
Correct.
Thank
you. Yeah. Martin,
okay.
John.
Go ahead, Martin.
Yeah, on kind of piggybacking on Member DeBreen's, I'm looking at the main floor plan and it looks really quite interesting. You have 2-car garage, you have a game room, mud room. It just looks like they want to extend some of their existing living area and then have another garage. And as you say, Clinton, that's really got no concern until the building code. Just a funny comment, 2-car garage next to a game room. I guess there's going to be a lot of carpooling going on, but that's a bad pun. But I'm okay with this. If you think the 9 meters is sufficient, Clinton, it's all well and good.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, not hearing any. Did I ask this of the public on this one yet? I don't think so. No. So is there anyone from the public that would like to speak in support of this? Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak in opposition? Okay, committee gets another shot now. Anyone from the committee that has any further? All right, not seeing any. Then I will entertain a motion to grant, refuse, or defer And the motion reads that the Committee of Adjustment receive staff report PL 2021-098 for information, and that the minor variance be approved with the following conditions: that a survey be provided if required by the CBO, and that all outstanding taxes, fees, and charges are paid, if there are any. Brian?
I'll move to grant if
Okay. Seconder, please. Oh, Jim. All right. Any discussion on this? All right. Is anyone opposed? And that is carried. Okay. Thank you. Okay. The committee decision be appealed within 20 days of the date of notice. And then need a motion to adjourn. I wonder who would move that one. Oh, maybe Brian this time, just for a change. So thanks everybody, and I'll see most of you this afternoon for the planning meeting. So take care.
Okay. Take care, everyone.
John.
Yep.